science. It's science. It's science.
Today we want to talk about human and environmental interaction in terms of environmental disasters, the development of infrastructure, which is roads, which is cities, which is buildings, coastal restoration. We'll talk a little bit about that today, and alternative sources of energy. I'm not going to spend much time on that. You should know a lot about alternative sources of energy from science class. We're talking about wind, solar, you name it, all the different ways. Those are the ones you want to have a broad understanding of. We'll go through those in a second, and these would be things where you need to have specific examples. Human and natural disasters may cause population of people, wildlife, and resources to be displaced. You need to know that as a North Carolina student. So let's focus on natural disasters. A natural disaster is a hurricane. If a hurricane hits your town, you got to leave. If a hurricane hits towns, sometimes animals get killed. Sometimes animals need to move away. Also, resources. If a hurricane hits New Orleans, the oil that was made in North Carolina or in New Orleans may not be accessible. The trees that were being used, you name the resources, the natural resources that we used to get from that area may not be accessible. They may be displaced. They're also human. And this is Hurricane Floyd. I think it killed about 60 people. And then this is Hurricane Katrina, killed 1,500 people. Both displaced large portions of human beings, not just in terms of death. Human disasters. Not all disasters are caused by nature. Human. This is 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. This is a nuclear power plant, nuclear power which we created, and it melted down, releasing radiation into the air. Very dangerous. It displaced people. People had to move away. It may have affected wildlife. The verdict is still out on that. There are a lot of lawsuits still pending because of this. The BP oil spill, or the Horizon oil spill, or the Gulf oil spill, whichever you want to name it. This affected people in terms of if you're a fisherman, you no longer were able to fish there. You probably had to move. Wildlife, you can obviously see the seagull may have died or it may have had to leave the area. And the resources, obviously the oil is no longer usable. So the oil that was once available in the area is no longer there. These things all have human impact, but they also have economic impacts too. It costs people lots of money. Human natural disasters may influence settlement patterns. This is an easy one. Let's just focus on natural disasters. We talked about the human ones before. Human disasters, BP oil spill, 3 Mile Island, all kinds of things that we've created, the problems that we create. Let's talk more about the natural ones. This map is perfect. You may use this on your project. The southeast area here is subject to hurricanes. This area is subject to tornadoes. This area is subject to earthquakes. So the first part is if you're scared of earthquakes, tornadoes, or hurricanes, then you don't want to live in those areas. And that's a perfect example, once again, of why you need to know geography. You need to know where you're going to live to protect yourself. Also, maybe even more important, is the economics of the situation. If you are going to spend your life savings to buy a home, or you spend your life savings and pour your life and your heart and your soul into a house that you live to for 30 years. Say you live in a home for 30 years and then a tornado comes and wipes it off the ground and it's completely gone, almost like it never existed. One, the economic impact. Two, the mental effect that that has on you to lose everything. You may not want to live there. You may not want to live near a hurricane. You have to make those decisions. And then it does. It affects where people live. We are in a pretty safe place, and sure enough, probably as I say that, something bad will happen to us. Humans may modify the environment in a way that produces economic growth and stability, thus improving the quality of life. We change the earth to make us better. Jamestown, when we first settled in Jamestown, yeah, there was a little bit of tobacco, but not the tobacco that would end up being there. Like, yes, there was tobacco, but we plow fields, we cut down forests to plant more and more tobacco. We plant it everywhere, and the reason we plant it everywhere is because we can make money off of it and make our lives better. Same thing with cotton in the South. Yes, there was cotton in the South, but it wasn't as widespread. Why did we plant cotton everywhere? Why did we displace the earth? Why did we change the earth? Because there was money to be made. Here's an example of New York City. Thousands of years ago, New York City today. We have obviously modified New York City. We've built bridges, we've built roads, we've built giant skyscrapers that are the center of the business community. Thousands of investors go there every day to buy and exchange stock, to create new businesses, to create new ideas, to invent things. That all happens because we've created that. That's definitely helped our economy grow. It definitely makes our economy stable. Without that, what would our economy be like? How stable would our economy be? Down here you have the roads and canals. Obviously, canals were there. We dug up the canals to make artificial rivers. We built roads to make artificial paths that help us move goods, so that we can sell goods, so that we can make money, increase our GDP, and grow and become stable. Without that, we don't grow. We do not advance. So sometimes we have to kind of take over nature and re-envision what it should look like. Dams. Dams are another example. That's not the way the river is supposed to work. Dams prevent flooding downriver. We can control the water level so there's not too much, but it also prevents droughts downriver so that there's not too little. So dams are great because say you live downriver and you have a house and a farm, you don't want that flooded, and you also don't want to experience a drought because then your farm will die. So a dam keeps the water levels just right. It also creates hydroelectric power, which is nice. Human modification, dun dun dun, has a downside. The environment may Modification of the environment may lead to unintended consequences. That means bad things. Obviously, you can see the carbon emissions there that go into our air that may cause climate change. It's up to you. Here's New Orleans. New Orleans, the city, this whole area is built below sea level. You'd say, well, why would you build something right next to the sea below sea level? Well, we modify the environment so that we can grow. One thing that we cannot create is more land. The amount of land on the earth is finite. How do you create more land? We can make goods. We can grow trees, but we can't create land. But we kind of can. How can we do that? Well, we take the same idea of a dam. See, this is a house in New Orleans. It is below sea level. It is below sea level. But what we can do is if over time we build up dirt, we build up a wall, this area would have been under sea level. We built a wall here to stop the water. We've now created this whole section of land where people can buy homes, people can start businesses, people can start producing goods. So we've actually created land, and that's actually a great thing, unless there's too much water and the water breaches the levee and then floods the entire town, resulting in the death of 1,500 people. So yes, sometimes our modifications have unintended consequences. Here you can see how the North Carolina coast has shrunk. Now, how does that happen? Well, what happens is over time, sand moves around the coast, and it's usually fine. Sand will go from here to here, from here to here, and it just slowly drifts upward. And every time sand moves, there's more sand to replenish where it moved from. Well, what happens is sometimes people build physical structures. Say I build my house here. Well, the sand starts hitting my house and my physical structure, and my physical structure works like a dam, and that prevents sand from coming over here or over here, and this dam starts blocking all the sand, and then this part of the coast starts to disappear. As you can see here, the coast slowly over the years is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. This may not be here in 100 years, and the houses that are on this may not be here in 100 years. Various ways in which North Carolinians have modified and adapted to the environment. Well, we changed the environment to create business sectors like you see in Charlotte. You can see the stadium. You can see that's where the baseball field will be. This wasn't like that 100 years ago. We've created that. We've created a banking industry to help the South grow. We've planted cotton all over. We've planted tobacco. We've modified it. Yes, it was here, but it wasn't widespread. The coast is another thing. Look, the roads. This road wasn't there. We've modified the road so that people can live out here. So we can have tourists activities to do. We have a access point to the coast. Another thing with the coast is when the first settlers arrived and they planted all this tobacco. Well, actually, all this land here on the coast, all this land was marshes, and it was part of our ecosystem, and it allowed all kinds of organisms and fish and plants to live. When we turn it into tobacco, a lot of these animals died. So what we're doing now is we're returning those farms back into marshes. We are modifying it to its original state. Oysters. We eat a lot of oysters, probably too many oysters. Oysters are good. Don't eat any bad oysters. It's a bad idea. But we like oysters, and oyster fishermen make a lot of money off oysters. But if we fish too many of them, it's a problem. One, if we fish too many of them, then we'll never longer be able to buy and sell them, and we'll no longer be able to eat them. That hurts our economy. Two, they're part of the food chain. We need them in the food chain. Three, oysters are a filter. They filter the water. They clean the filter. So if we don't have oysters in our coast, it is bad, bad news. Now we can actually recreate or replenish the supply of oysters. We got to find good areas, and really what it involves is taking your oyster shells and putting them back into the water, and then the organisms will connect with the oyster shells again. So we modify it. Sometimes we make it worse. Sometimes we make it better. A lot of times we do it to make our lives better. Various ways in which the United States has been changed to meet the needs of people. We build roads and canals. That's a no-brainer. We build levees to add more land so more people have places to live. Sometimes that doesn't work, unfortunately. Sometimes there's flooding. Fracking is something that we're doing. We're trying to get more gas so you can power your home, to maybe power cars. We need natural gas. It could have some unintended consequences. We over farm. We have farms everywhere. 300 years ago, North America was not farms. North America was open fields or it was forests. Now, everywhere you go in the United States, it's farming, farming, farming. At some point, we may begin to overuse the soil. We may begin to over-fertilize the soil. But we've changed it. We've changed it because we need to feed more people. Look at all these roads. These roads were not there. We've built those roads to connect people, maybe to connect families, maybe to connect businesses, maybe just because we want to grow. Dams, as we talked about earlier, that wasn't there. And oil, we get oil from the ground. We are changing our states. We are changing. We're taking the oil. It is no longer there now. We did that to help people out. We make changes to help the needs of the people. Another way the United States has changed, look at all these things. This is the Columbian Exchange. You studied this last year. All of this, sugar, bananas, olives, livestock, cattle, sheep, pigs, horses, they were not in America. We have changed America. We've brought animals, we've brought fruit, we've brought vegetables, we've brought disease that wasn't here before. Now, the disease, we didn't bring that to meet the needs of the people. This stuff we did, though. We've brought it over here to help people out. Completely changed the ecosystem. Various ways in which nature has impacted the quality of life and settlement patterns in North Carolina and the United States. All right, so are you going to want to live in the mountains? Maybe you do. Maybe you want to live near the coast. The physical environment or the physical landscape affects settlement patterns. Natural disasters is another example. Where do you want to live based on natural or human disasters? Where do you want to live based on rainfall? Do you like the rain? Do you not like the rain? Does it rain too much here? Does it rain too little here? Is it too dry? Is it too humid? You'll make those decisions. Maybe you as a regular citizen don't care, but if you're a farmer, you're going to care. You need water to grow produce. Now, if you live near farms, you can usually get food cheaper. If you live in the desert, boy, I wonder if food will be more expensive. Is it more scarce? Is the supply lower? There you go. The weather, is it too cold for you in some parts? Is it too hot for you in some parts? Is it just right? This affects settlement patterns. When people decide where to live, they look at these things. You need to understand the geography of the United States when you make big life decisions. Various ways in which nature has impacted the quality of life and settlement patterns in North Carolina. Do you want to live near the coast? You got to worry about hurricanes. A lot of people moved to North Carolina because we had cotton, we had tobacco, there was business, it was booming. Some people don't want to live in the mountains. Some people moved to the mountain area and even over here because there was gold in Dim Dare Hills. Gold rush. We had the first gold rush, 1799. A lot of people flocked to North Carolina. It affects the quality of life and the settlement patterns. So people decide where they live based on opportunity, and sometimes based on opportunity to have a better quality of life. The coast. Do you want to live on the coast? Do you live in the coastal plain? All these regions are different. They affect who wants to settle there, why they want to settle there, and what kind of opportunities they have. This is the Sandhills down in the southern part of the coastal plain. A really interesting place. Another great science project. The Sandhills are a perfect place to build golf courses. You'd have to look more into this, but this is a place now where some of the best golf courses are in the world. And maybe you know that people that are wealthy love to play golf, and people that are wealthy love to retire. So if a person is wealthy and they want to retire and all they want to do is play golf, where do you think they're going to go to? The Sandhills of North Carolina. Do you think there's a lot of money in the Sandhills? Yes. It's an interesting thing to look at. Maybe that would be a great place to start a business. Do you think it's expensive to live there? Yes. All right, I went really fast today. Anyone have any questions? Okay, obviously I can't answer any questions. I really like the Sandhill thing. I'd really like the natural disaster, but you also got to remember there are human disasters you have to worry about as well. Columbian Exchange, really, really make sure you go over Columbian Exchange. All of these things come from the old world into the new world. They did not exist here. The animals that we eat, they weren't in America. And we send a lot of stuff back as well. Don't have to worry about that. New Orleans, the tragedy that happened, that is human modification at its worst. Fracking is another thing that we seriously need to worry about. There's not a lot of scientific evidence right now that proves either way. Is it dangerous? Boy, we would love to have all that natural gas. That would really power our economy, but at what cost? Hopefully, I think for the most part, we do not live in a fracking area, so we're going to be good with that. How do we modify the environment? the unintended consequences of modifying the environment. But really, the big reason we modify is for growth and stability and the displacement. Thanks, guys.